old strategies, again, like Karma Ezreal fits in that vein, are becoming viable again in this open meta.
And very strong opening from Random here. The Dredger, especially with the buff that it received a couple patches ago, being a 2-1 is going to trade into a lot of things, but unfortunately with also being on the as Draven, a lot of his units are going to be 3 power, not 2, so we'll have to back it up with like a Vile Feast to really get a lot of value out of the Dredger, but tossing 3, pretty good for a 1-drop, definitely what the deck wants to do.
Yeah, really an ideal opening here we see from Random. He's got the perfect curve, got the Lure of the Depths as well. You basically want to go turbo deep in this matchup, so this is the hand to do it.
And on the side of Osciillate, we do see that Tri-Beam in hand, as well as double Draven and a Thermo that could be used for 3. So hopefully going to be getting that buffed up. Second Tri-Beam being drawn as well. Going to be some very big swing potential with those cards, although a Nautilus in hand for Random and a Maokai. Currently no Scorched Earth to deal with that Nautilus.
Yeah, plenty of time to draw that. It's worth noting, too. During that commentary, he drew a second Tri-Beam, and that Thermo on 3 might just be worth just to pump it up a little bit more. I mean, but he's deciding not to do it. Could be a little bit wasteful, jumping right in. We might see an Urchin develop here just to discard that Axe and draw another card.
Yeah, I do like holding the Thermo. It's one of your only options, right, against those bigger health chunky units that Deep is known for. Maybe saving it for something like an Abyssal Eye. I mean, even a Maokai potentially. But we have, since the lure has come down, we have Sea Scarab potential to be played for 1 here alongside the Dead Bloom Wanderer.
Yeah, leading into a Mystic Shot, definitely good. You don't want to invalidate any type of attack you attempt to make here, as Draven's all about keeping up the pressure, trying to maintain some tempo to close out the game with the newly drawn Farron. And of course, the Nautilus could make that a little more difficult if they drop that on 7, so even more important to get that damage now while you can.
Osciillate still has some time here, but definitely going to want to find a Scorched Earth to deal with these big sea creatures that are going to be coming in from the side of Random. We do see just found Jettison, in addition to that Lure of the Depths and the Sea Scarab.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be finding Deep here maybe soon if we're able to lock that Sea Scarab down on the board. It'll be interesting to see if it is played, if Osciillate does opt to use that Thermo, although it is no longer at that 3 mana point. Nope, just deciding to hold it. And a second Jettison being drawn on the side of Random. Absolutely massive, where you're going to hit Deep this turn. Turn 5 is an extremely fast Deep.
Yeah, and we see the Maokai come down. Lots of options to try to tackle the board, but nothing really getting there without doing something you might not want to do. That Thermo, having to play a card first. Something we could see is the maybe like a Tri-Beam just early on the 2-1. Definitely not what he wants to do, but something that could be considered. It's looking kind of rough, or at least awkward for Osciillate. Just nothing that lines up perfectly into the board like Ezraven is known for. He's definitely taking his time, thinking a little bit, decides to pass.
Fully pass on 8 mana. I mean, I don't hate the pass back there from Random, but it is just pretty tempting to go for the Deep this turn. You're going to get that buff on the Sea Scarab, bring it up, and the Maokai is going to get that much closer to the level, as well as Lure of the Depths potential to be played. This is going to be a pretty strong next group of plays here from Random.
What's funny, though, is the fact that Random has developed into that Scarab now gives Osciillate the ability to kind of play some cards a little more efficiently. We might even see a Get Excited on the Scarab to try to tackle that now before it can toss a lot of cards, and then maybe follow up with the Thermo just to remove that Maokai. Now he's dealt with half the board, the Sapling goes away, all that's left again is that 2-1, maybe opening up a little more clear attack for Osciillate on the following turn.
Yeah, definitely a lot of different lines Osciillate can take here. You could potentially even go for a Tri-Beam. I'm not sure how large the biggest tri-beam is added. It might be 3 or 4.
They're both at 3.
Both at 3? Okay.
Yeah. So again, just kind of one short, but we're gonna see double jettison, which, does that put him into the deep? And it does, kind of making things once again very awkward for Osciillate. Maybe follows up with a Mystic Shot just to out the card if he wants to go all in here. Probably not the best move though, and might just take the L where it is and then see what he can do about the board.
Rinster, what are those tri-beams looking like right now in Oscillate's hand?
They're currently at 3, so if we see maybe the Whirling Death to get a little more value from Draven, could pump it up to 4, which could deal with the Maokai on the following turn. And it looks like he's just going to sacrifice the Draven, replay it, which also gets the job done.
Again, though, this Nautilus just 2 turns away from being played, and it will be leveled upon play. We're seeing Maokai at a disgusting 21 out of 25, just threatening to shut this game down right now for Osciillate. Offer very few options if this deck is obliterated, so you may just be priced into dumping the Thermo on the Maokai this turn.
Yeah, I think I agree with that line of play as well.
What?
I can see Osciillate wanting to take the risk here. We did see 2 jettisons, so there's a chance that the opponent might not be able to level the Maokai like before we can kill it. Definitely a risk though. You do not want to lose all of your Ezreals. That is our most reliable win con here in this matchup at this point.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And just opting again, like you said, for that tri-beam, it is on a 4 stack now because of that Draven play. Still has 3 mana left over. Could still charge up that second tri-beam with the Thermo in hand. And of course, it might come down to the luck of the draw, depending on what he ends up getting off of, or what 4 mana unit he does get off of this as well. He's definitely hoping.
Yeah, I think Random's checking to see what he tossed so far this game, see if the 3rd jettison is in the deck. Because there is the potential. It looks like it was tossed. It was tossed by the the blood room wanderer.
Would you guys have wanted to
like
see the salvage played there to just obliterate the deck?
So the salvage would have tossed 2 cards, so he still would have been 2 off, so he would have needed to find a jettison.
Yeah, correct.
But he did get rid of the 3rd jettison.
Okay.
Earlier, so.
Yeah, we see the Devourer come down, targeting that Draven. Definitely gonna hurt. So again, Osciillate, just no matter what he does, no matter what play he makes, it seems like he's stuck on the back foot from Random. Can't keep up with those tosses, can't keep up with the champs. But he ended up getting a pretty decent 4-drop, can actually trade into the Devourer by using those axes in that Thermo.
Decides to go for a Thermo here to set up a flock on a future turn, I'm assuming. Oh, no, going for the Spinning Axe. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and I really do like this play because I believe it only keeps the quick attack for 1 turn when I'm summoned yet. So definitely want to take advantage of that. He can always kill that 2-1. We might as well get that big 7/7 out of the way while we can, while charging the Tri-Beam.
Atrocity being top-decked here. In addition to the Nautilus, we still don't see a Scorched Earth in hand from Osciillate. They are at that 16 health point. A full pass back is surprising to see, and the second Atrocity being drawn, not exactly what you want to see. Duck, what do you expect to see played this turn?
So from the side of Random, I expect Nautilus probably into the Devourer. From the side of Osciillate, I think you kind of just have to slam the Farron here and hope for the best. That is what we see. The amount of burn that they've got in hand will go a long way. However, they're going to need to buy time and not get down to the 13 health range there. I mean, we could even see a double Atrocity out of Random, which would be very interesting.
Huge, yeah. And with that Challenger, maybe he just grabs the Nautilus, goes for the Overwhelm damage, does 7, brings him down to 10, and then all he really needs is both of those Decimates to resolve while surviving. And it could be a steal from Osciillate.
Yeah, this Challenger here is huge. Considering the Mystic, Okay, so I guess his concern, also its concern here is a second Nautilus could be somewhat likely if they do go for that challenger play. So they challenge the Nautilus and then random just second Nautilus is away the 8/8. So decides to take it a little bit slow. Unfortunately, we see that random doesn't have that in hand, so definitely losing out on some damage there.
Yeah, and that could have cost him the game as well by trying to take it a little safer. Um, it appears to be that Devour is going to cause a lot of damage.
There's the second Nautilus and the Bone Skewer. So this is big here. If you're random, you just open here as soon as one of these connects. You have the Atrocity lethal.
You Atrocity the one, yeah, exactly. You Atrocity the other. So nothing at fast speed that's going to be able to stop an Atrocity on either of these units, and you have to take a block here. So this looks like an unavoidable lethal on the side of Osciillate.
So also it kind of setting up for the top deck Scorched Earth here, as a response to an Atrocity on either of the units. This is a nice line, playing to the outs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, random can just counter that. It does kind of show Oscillate's hand a little bit here. I might just counter that again with, just the preemptive Atrocity, which
Yeah.
I think is coming down right now.
Yep, very.
Yep, this is a good line of play here from Random. A weak point of the Draven Ezreal deck is not being able to deal with massive units on open. If you're able to get them to connect and stay on board and then present damage to the Nexus, it has much more fast speed options and stuns. So we see Random taking home the first game here with Deep into Draven Ezreal. Very solid play.
So, Duckling, what do you think is more favored in this matchup?
So it's definitely interesting, right? You have this Tri-Beam on the side of Osciillate, which generally tends to push that, like the advantage that way in the Ezreal matchups. But Karma generates a ton of value. The problem is that your Karma becomes big once you reach turn 10, right? And Draven Ezreal becomes big once they reach turn 8, generally. So it's usually a pretty close game from my understanding, but yeah, we're in for a show here.
Full spell hand here on the side of Random. I'm not used to playing decks like this that only have spells, only draw spells. It is triple Mystic Shot, Static Shock, Thermo, and a Deep Med. I'm not sure if this is a good hand or a bad hand, but we do see a lot of units here on the side of Osciillate that we're going to be able to use those spells on.
Yeah, and that's kind of Draven Ez's not biggest fear, but something they struggle with is if you can get if you can chain stuns back to back or chain the removal on their units, because generally they kind of rely on those to push more and more damage, maintain their tempo, as most decks like Draven Ez do, could lead to turn 8 not mattering that much. Because again, you stun the Farron after you've prevented a lot of this damage, and now it could swing in random side, but of course it only depends on how the matchup plays out.
Or you have that Will of Ionia right now at 4. You can send Farron back to the hand. Yes, it'll create more decimates, but you do have Deny as well as a good amount of lifesteal through Eyes to be able to deal with that. So there are a lot of options, like you're saying, to negate some of those bigger game threats from Draven Ezreal.
Yeah, and it's mana taxing, which is a big factor with a deck like Draven Ezreal. They want to spend mana as efficiently as possible, and if they're having to replay their 8-drop just to try to get in some damage, usually that's not a good spot for them. And we see a Scorched Earth out of Osciillate, which is, in my opinion, very important in this matchup. A lot of times you have to stack at least some type of damage on the Ezreal. You can't rely on being able to get excited it early. So then maybe you'll have to get a flock off, and then they'll usually try to deny that in some way, shape, or form. And then you have to chain that Scorched Earth to really finish it off.
Arachnoid Sentry here being played just for pure development, not utilizing the stun. The only unit in Random's hand is a Shadow Assassin, although we do have the Concussive Palm. Would like to see an Eye, potentially. I mean, there is a little bit of damage coming down here, although we do see a Static and a Mystic being used. And the Static, interesting enough, being used before the Mystic just to get those extra Ezreal triggers. And Ezreal currently sitting at 4 out of 6 in Random's deck.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that play. One of the biggest pieces of economy in an Ezreal versus Ezreal type situation is who can level up faster. You know, kind of talking about Ez Karma back in the day, a lot of that mirror match was, okay, well, can I avoid playing a unit here? And then that way I can prevent those Ezreal triggers. So
Big that we found the Karma here. Gives us a much greater chance of, if we didn't find the Ezreal, of finding the Ezreal, but looks like we just found the Ezreal too, so we kind of have all the combo pieces coming together here for Random.
Yeah, and we are at 9 out of 10 cards here in Random's hand, just absolutely stacked in terms of answers. What are those Tri-Beams looking like right now, Brinster?
looks like we have a 4 and a 2. Maybe develops another Arachnoid Sentry just to get those ticked up one more. And that's exactly what we're going to see here.
So Tri-Beam's going to be pretty key here. We don't have a Deny or anything to shut that down right now in the hand of Random. But outside of the Deny, we have every other card under the sun. And this Karma is going to be a huge threat going into the late game, especially if we're able to find some protection.
I know it's not going to happen, but I really hope we see Karma on 9, grab the Glorious Evolution again, and then we cast Glorious Evolution twice. I just want to see it. I know it's not going to happen, though. Opting for the weaker Tri-Beam, I actually really like this play because that way if it does get Deny, he doesn't lose as much equity, ends up getting a 2-4, which is huge, because that means it's less prone to some of the removal options that Random has.
Random just kind of thinking about what's going to lead to taking the least amount of damage, slash if we want to take more damage on the side of using health as a resource here to cycle. So it looks like it's what we do it. Want to keep the Concussive Palm since we don't have any way of dealing with the Farron other than that currently in our hand.
Yeah, going to be able to push 2 damage through here, still at a pretty healthy 15 on the side of Random, and we are approaching that turn 10 level for Karma. Both deep meds, also of note, are at 3 mana this turn. May expect to see one of those played for even more options, but Ezreal in the hand of Random is leveled. Worth noting that the Ezreal in Oscillate's deck only at 2 out of 6 currently.
Thermo there was pretty much a perfect top deck from Random. On this turn, this is exactly what you want to do. You want to just have that threat up so that Oscillate's like kind of forced to develop the Farron here, but we do have that answer. Oh, looks like, okay, actually just going to go for the Ezreal develop. Okay, I guess we have the Concussive Palm, so it's not really a threat. That's fair. You can't kill the Ezreal here. This makes a lot of sense too. I like it.
Yeah, the Ezreal has a chance to really just put in a lot of damage, and again, when that Karma comes down, usually it just kind of ends the game anyway. So stacking damage now, even if the Ezreal dies, is usually fine.
And going for a Mystic Shot, gonna keep us at that 4 mana point, so we're still able to play the Concussive Palm this turn. Oh no, bank the mana actually, rather. And play the Thermo to remove the 2-3. I like that play as well, just getting some chip damage here, and every point of damage that Random gets is going to stick, right?
Yeah, and a lack of healing in this deck, with most of the times in these colors, Noxus not really known for its healing capabilities, is really going to show its teeth, so to say, just due to the fact that, again, Random, everything it puts on is there to stay, and he's going to start feeling that pain more and more and more as that life total starts to tick down.
So it's looking like we. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say, Bryn?
No, go ahead.
I was just saying it's looking like we're gonna be losing the Ezreal here, but we do have the Karma with double deep med in hand, as well as time trick. So we're not gonna be running out of answers anytime soon.
Yeah, that deep med is huge. Just kind of refilling that hand, putting even more pressure. Of course, Osciillate did have the flock, which is a nice answer to that Ezreal, why we pinged it earlier. But of course, the stun is huge as well.
And we do have a second deep med in hand for random, just for even more refuel, just maintaining that high health total of 15 into turn 9. Not anything to scoff at. Usually you want to put your opponent down much lower so that you can use Farron and the Decimates to kind of close out the game, but that is not what we see happening right now.
Interesting decision to pass on the 8 mana there. I would have really thought he would have at least played 1 Decimate, gets the 3 spell mana from that. Usually not a big deal. Oh, we see the double Poro emote come down. That's that's not a good sign.
I agree with you, Brinster. I would have liked to see a Decimate played. I mean, you're just burning mana at that point, right?
Yeah. Just mana efficiency is huge. We kind of talked about at the beginning of the match, and something that I think that was just kind of thrown away. Not really sure if you wanted to use those Decimates as a resource later on for discard, but there's so many things in this deck that can generate a card. Draven, technically Ezreal if it ever connects, and then of course things like we see in the hand here, Thorn of the Rose. So I'm not too sure what the reasoning was there, but I'm sure it's a good one. They wouldn't have been able to make it this far without that.
Yeah, and it would be nice if we still had that Ezreal on board, right? Each of these spells would be representing 2 damage face, but still can't complain too much when you've got double gotcha to put onto the Farron, maybe put it into Mystic Shot range. Thorn of the Rose being played is such a prime target for Static Shock, and when you're able to stick a Karma like this on board, that Static Shock does represent double draw. So Osciillate gonna need to remove this Karma. It's a high priority target right now.
Couple of ways to do that too. So we see the Scorched Earth in hand, we see the Tri-Beam. Obviously, we haven't seen it deny all game, so playing the Tri-Beam could be a little bit scary with 5 open mana. So it might be safer to go for something like a Get Excited at first, then try to lead into a Scorched Earth. Both of those pump up the Tri-Beam, and then maybe finishing it off with that Tri-Beam on a following turn. But of course, that is a lot of resources to throw away just to burn 1 Karma, and decides to just opt for the Tri-Beam anyway.
Yeah, no deny in hand for random here. That would be what you want to see. Now you have the choice. What are you going to use as your last double cast? Going with the time trick. I mean, extremely strong. Getting to predict your your next 2 draws. You see an Ezreal there. Maybe you take it and you see a deep meditation. I would expect to be taken as well. Duckling, what would you have thinking about the gotcha line onto the Captain Farron to be able to deal with that?
I think I prefer this line out of random here. We want to get as much value as we can since we don't currently have any of our other champions in our hand. Like, we don't have any way of ending the game yet, right? So I really like this line of keeping the mana up to be able to draw rather into the answers here. And as we see, we did find the Ezreal. And because for next turn we have the Concussive Palm too. Sorry, that's what I want to say. We have the Concussive Palm next turn for the Farron. So that's not threat here, and I think if we're living through another attack turn from Osciillate, it's pretty likely that we find our answers by then.
Yeah, I like this play. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, leaving it open a little bit more, and now you're getting a double Mystic to face. You did find the Ezreal in the predict, and probably going to be able to set up a fast speed lethal here, although stalking Broodmother, I don't like casting Tri-Beams on 7. It's a very weird number, but that's an amazing hit to get off of the Tri-Beam.
Yeah, allows for a pretty easy pass priority and a free attack. We all know how we feel about free attacks.
Yeah, I've continued the jokes into today, Brinster.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. I'd love to hear it.
Surprised to see the Mystic Shot last turn from Random instead of just developing the Ezreal with the 3 mana and having the full mana set up, because we only saw Osciillate on 2, so he couldn't have really answered the Ezreal. I'm not sure if that's why we saw the Darius emote from Random there, if he felt like that was a mistake, but I was definitely surprised to see that.
It's
No
possible
worries,
with the Guile in hand, he was worried about the
Oh.
second flock.
Oh, you're right. I didn't see that. That's true. Yeah, good
But
call.
the
there,
Static
Vincent.
Shock is just cleaning up the board as well as that Concussive Palm, eliminating threats. Yeah, it looks like Random is in a great spot, putting Osciillate down to 7.
Yeah, we've got Time Trick here as well being picked up. Ezreal next turn going to be looking to close out the game. We are going to need a 2-card combination right now if we want to remove that Ezreal from the board, and it may not be enough in time to prevent this lethal. But both players currently sitting at 7 HP. This has been pretty close, and it's been impressive to see Osciillate maintain this long through the stuns, right? Poor Farron has not been able to connect yet.
I really like the Guile instead of trying to stack damage onto the Ezreal. Obviously, we don't know what is in Random's hand. Could be quite literally anything. But it forces, like we see here, the Deny, which allows just for a follow-up, get excited, maybe a Scorched Earth.
Right, yeah, you're definitely going to need to 2-for-1 into this Ezreal here. Such a high priority target. Going to be able to Time Trick into Deep Med if we want to. Alternatively, maybe do a Gotcha as well. Duckling, what are you thinking about those lines?
Yeah, I mean, both players really playing to their outs here. I think if you're Random, you have to let this get excited go through, because you see your opponent's still on 8 mana. This is a tough call. I see why he's thinking about it.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to make use of the Mystic Shot you generate this turn, although you can cast the Thermo for 1. But right now there is not an answer to the Farron swing next turn. So this is going to be down to the wire next turn in terms of who wins. Although putting Osciillate to 3, and then if we cast the Thermo this turn, we will actually have the burst speed lethal. So extremely close here in the final moments of this match.
Yeah, Ballistic Bot, not what you're looking for here if you're Osciillate.
Extremely well played by both individuals. Like exactly what Duckling said, playing to their outs, looking to do exactly, playing forward to future turns, and just kind of came down to the wire.
Yeah, you are going for the open here. If you are Osciillate, just get the lethal in if you can, but as Karma is made of spells and you only need 1 damage right now, random7 able to take it home over Osciillate in a clean 2-0 in the finals.